What's good, y'all? So here's 5 things that I wish that I knew before going NAIA. So I have 2 other videos kind of like this. One was 5 things that I wish that I knew before going D1, and the other was 5 things that I wish that I knew before going JUCO. So I started out at Division I school over in Jackson State, transferred from there to a community college in Western Maryland, then a community college in Baltimore. And then from there, I transferred over to an NAIA over in Riverside, California, called La Sierra University. So I kind of have some experience on like the difference between what it's like over at the NAIA level and what it's like at the other levels, like a JUCO or a NCAA, like Division I type school. So that being said, here's the 5 things. So thing number 1, talent is very underhyped in the NAIA level. I'm gonna be honest, when I was transferring from my previous school to La Sierra University, I didn't really hear too much about the whole NAIA baseball thing. So my understanding was that, oh, there's really like no talent really at this level. Like I was thinking that was below D3, like a D4 in a sense, you know what I mean? I'm just being 100% with y'all. So when I first got here, I was quite surprised by some of the talent that I witnessed at this level. I wouldn't say that it's at a D1 level, although I will say that there are some players at the NAIA level that can play D1, but it's more comparable to a Division II. We face guys who have thrown like 97. We've faced guys with like crazy power. Some of the longest balls I've ever seen hit have been at La Sierra University. And honestly, there have been a few guys in the La Sierra's conference and in the other conference in California that have been drafted straight out of the conference. And as I kind of talked about in my first video, I was starting to get some attention from there too. So it's not to say that you definitely can't get drafted or signed out of the NAIA. Like there's definitely some serious talent at this level. So my school, we faced Division II in the state. They were a pretty solid Division II. It was a doubleheader. We threw all of our guys out in that first game and we won the first game. But the difference between us and the Division II had a lot more depth. So the second game, they were able to, beat us. And that was mostly because, they were talented. They don't get me wrong, but they also had like a lot more depth at that level. So the second thing that I wish that I knew before going NAIA, time management, man. It is a absolutely crazy schedule, and this was not something that I was expecting coming into La Sierra University. So let me give you guys a little bit of a rundown on like what the schedule, a typical day in the life actually looked like. 4:30 a.m. wake up. You got do your morning routine and all that. Then after that, you got to go to weights at 6 a.m. You lift from maybe 6 to 7:30. Have breakfast at 7:30. You have your breakfast, and then you got to go to early work at 9 a.m. Early work is basically like the optional practice time that they would give to some of the guys to work on their individual stuff before going into the team practice. So you'd have that at 9, from 9 to 10. And then at 10, that's when the team practice starts. You practice from 10 to 1. Then after practice, you got to run and shower, and then hope that you're not late for your 1 o'clock class that is happening at that time. And my schedule was a little heavy. I transferred from a few schools, so some of my credits didn't transfer over, so I always had to overload the schedule. So I'd have class from 1 to 10, and then go to sleep at like 12 or so after doing like a couple of hours of homework, wake up at 4 the next day, do it all over again. It's a crazy schedule. And then on top of that, you got games on the weekends. So it's really like you don't really have too much time on the weekends to really, do too much either. And on top of that, I was like really involved with like my school's like Black Student Union and, some other stuff as well. So with all of that, balancing the academic life, the athletic life, the social life, and the work life, because I had to work too, you know what I mean? It's not like I can, just skate by without getting money to, pay through school. So with all of that, you really don't have a ton of free time. For a lot of people, there really isn't too much of a social life, if I'm being honest. So it definitely takes sacrifice, but in my opinion, I think that is really worth it, because like you know, it's a grind, but if you really enjoy the game, if you really want to see yourself get to a certain level in this game, it's all going to be worth it. You know what I mean? So with that being said, the third thing that I wish that I knew before going NAIA. Now, if the previous point didn't tell you that it's seriously a grind, so don't get me wrong, there are some like really nice NAIA institutions that, you know, their programs are really well funded. They're able to get all the nice facilities, all the nice equipment, you know, all of that, things of that nature. One of the biggest things about this channel, I want to keep it real with y'all. The majority of NAIAs, at least in the area that I'm in, but I'm also aware that it's like this in a lot of the other parts of the country, they aren't necessarily the best funded. The majority really don't have like the greatest, like most up-to-date facilities. Most of them don't give you like, you know, the top of the line equipment to use. A lot of them don't necessarily have, in fact, I don't think any of them really have like crazy scholarship money like that to where like they could give you, you know, full rides and things of that nature. A lot of it's kind of like a mix between JUCO and the NCAA level. It's like it's a 4-year, but you got to grind through, you know, a lot of those years. It's also a lot less of distraction because the majority of NAIAs are smaller than Division 1 type schools. So you won't necessarily deal with as much attention or like distractions kind of coming at you from like all sides as you would at maybe like a LSU or like a Vandy or something like that, you know what I mean? So with La Sierra, right, we didn't necessarily have like the greatest funding. I'm gonna just keep it 100% with you. And there was a lot of other schools in our division that also didn't really have the greatest funding as well. They had talented players, don't get me wrong, but again, it was a grind. You don't really get anything truly handed to you at the NAIA level. So it's just something to be prepared for when considering, you know, going NAIA out of high school or transferring to a NAIA out of a JUCO. Especially out of a JUCO. I feel like a JUCO really prepares you for what you're gonna get at NAIA. So the fourth thing that I wish that I knew, the exposure is a lot more limited than it is at the NCAA level. Now, this is one of the more unfortunate things about NAIA. There's just less players drafted out of the NAIA level. That's just me keeping it 100% with you. Part of it is likely because of the smallness of like the schools, but typically the best players out of NAIA, typically out of the school, they go straight to the indie leagues like the Frontier League, Pioneer League, Atlantic League, things of that nature. But yeah, in my time at La Sierra, there's only been one player, I believe, that was drafted out of our conference. And, you know, he was a pitcher. He was a solid pitcher. But that's kind of what I'm kind of getting at. It's much more limited at the NAIA level. Now, again, not to say that it's impossible, because like I said, there are definitely a lot of players that do get undrafted free agent signings. There are players that do get drafted for sure out of the NAIA level. But if I'm gonna be straight up, one of the biggest factors to getting drafted or signed at this level is the connections that the coaching staff has. So if you're considering a NAIA to go to and going professional, like going to the affiliated minor leagues, MLB, that type of stuff, that's your goal, just make sure that when talking to the various coaches, make sure that they actually have like connections to this type of stuff, because if they don't, it just makes it that much harder for you. So the fifth thing that I wish that I knew, and this one's from my D1 bounce backs, in the majority of cases, if you are coming from a Division I school, you will be expected to be him as soon as you step on campus. It's no secret that being Division I kind of carries a little bit of weight like in the college world, right? And NAIA is no different. So kind of speaking in my case, again, out of high school, I did go Division I, and this was kind of known when I was looking for a school after I transferred to the JUCO. So pretty much as soon as I stepped on that campus, I was expected to start, I was expected to be all conference. I was expected to be a key contributor to the team winning more games. I was expected to do a lot. I was expected to be a leader. And thankfully, all praise to God, pretty much all of those things were able to come to pass. But it definitely does add like a certain level of responsibility that I would say the majority of players coming into the NAIA don't necessarily have. So if you are coming from a Division I going to an NAIA, just make sure that you are on your stuff. Make sure that you take being a leader seriously. Make sure that you are on top of your game, and make sure that you are prepared for what's to come when you go to the NAIA. So that being said, those are the 5 things that I wish that I knew before going NAIA. Yeah, if you guys got any other questions or anything of that nature about like the experience, about like what it takes, about what it's like to be at the NAIA level, you can always hit me up in my DM. I try to be good with getting back to DMs. The schedule is busy, like as you guys probably see with the vlog, but I try to be pretty good with getting back to the DM. So yeah, if you guys got a question, just hit me up in the DM, and yeah, I'll look to get back to y'all. But thank y'all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.